We went fishing tonight! That's all I got.
Well, guys, Sana will definitely be celebrating tonight because MI New York, they chased down 184 runs in 16 overs thanks to Nicholas Pooran's 137 off of 55. We'll get into all that and so much more. But like always, I'm Aaman Patel, joined by Nate Hayes. We thank you guys for watching Big Innings. And today we're joined by Peter Miller, the man who's been everywhere, it seems like, in the world of cricket. Peter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Very nice to be here. Hugely excited.
So we now have a person with a proper cricket accent. So this will help.
So for those of you who don't follow us on Big Innings on our Instagram, make sure you go follow us. You can find a post where someone comments about the accents that which we hold, and the reply Nate left on it. So if you want to see something maybe that you'll laugh at, you can go check that out on our Instagram. Again, tonight was a culmination of 3 weeks of hot weather, sweaty days, long nights, but we made it to the very end, and there were fireworks literally and through with the bat in hand. It was terrific to watch tonight's final.
Yeah, what a final. I mean, it wasn't the greatest game, of course, but we saw the best innings that Nicholas Pooran has played in his life, he said. His best T20 innings, and we were privileged enough to see it firsthand. There wasn't a chance in the entire innings. He couldn't miss. There was nothing anybody could do.
There was innings I saw Nicholas play. Well, I was pretty lucky to have been there, actually. One of the few people who were in the dark days of the pandemic when we had an entire CPL in Trinidad in 2020.
Right.
And he scored 100 on a really difficult pitch, chasing 150 with his side in trouble. And it was unbelievable. Hit 3 sixes at the end to win the game and to score himself 100. That was probably, I think, the best Pooran innings I've seen. I said to him tonight that I thought that one was better than this, and he disagreed with me. But Nicholas disagreeing with me probably shouldn't be massively surprising.
Well,
but, yeah, no, I mean, I think that the thing about Nicholas is that he's such a mercurial talent, right?
Yeah.
Tonight, I thought was really interesting is that he came out, and he's one of those players that when he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
And you could tell tonight he was on. It was a bit like Quinton de Kock, actually, in the game against Super Kings, who has a similar kind of temperament and a similar time when you're there going, oh my goodness, this is going to be a big innings.
Right.
Kind of like the opposite of what you'd get from like a Devon Conway or a Heinrich Klaassen, where they're always just ruthlessly efficient.
Yeah.
And will kind of do the same thing almost every time.
Sure.
Whereas Pooran and de Kock is like when they decide that they're going to make it happen, they make it happen, and that's what we saw tonight. And perhaps a little disappointing that it wasn't a closer game, but you really couldn't have a better innings to finish off a tournament that's been a great success.
Yeah, and honestly, the Seattle team, Seattle Orcas, the Orca, Seattle Orcas really, at the end there, the last couple overs really got a nice little boost where I thought they would be short. You know, I thought anything short of about 190 would be tough against this New York team in this chase. But yeah, they made it a game there with the Pretorius over, just blasting. How many did he score off that last over there? His last over.
Pretorius went over against, who was it, Trent Bolt.
That was the 19th, right?
For the 19th, and hit him for about, he hit him for 10 runs in the next over following that. Was able to get 22 off of that over. So
yeah,
that was
against Visa. That was the 20th. Yeah, that was crazy.
I think at the halfway stage, you kind of think, like, it's always really interesting, isn't it? Is that under lights on a pitch, now that people have an idea of how it works, and pitch 4 here at Grand Prairie is probably the best of them, I would say, in terms of the batting pitches, that you always think chasing under lights, you'll feel pretty confident. But there is something about finals, isn't there, where runs on the board.
Yeah.
And people, like, it's one of those, the reason why cliches are cliches is because they're true, right? And how many times have we seen teams chasing, I mean, that's nearly 10 and over, right?
Yeah.
How many times do we see teams chasing that and they end up coming up short? Whereas what Nicholas was able to do almost from the get-go, because he was blasting sixes as soon as he walked out there, was he was able to break that back of that chase and get to the point where, I mean, 7 overs to go, it was a runner ball, right?
Yeah.
42 or 42.
Yeah.
And
Nuts.
at that point, the game's done, right?
Game's
because
done.
you've got 7 wickets in hand or whatever it was. And, I mean, to win a game where you're chasing a big total and you don't even need Tim David to come out and bat says something about how good it was, right?
It was kind of like the QDK innings the other day when they didn't even need Klaassen.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to get to this point. So yeah, it's incredible innings from Pooran. And yeah, so we have a few people chiming in here. The atmosphere at the ground seemed electric. It really was. It was a great.
Nicholas Pooran definitely helped that out, right? Him blasting sixes left, right, and center. It was a sea of MI New York fans at the ground, and the blue was definitely outshining the green tonight. And you could hear it anytime there was a six, anytime there was a wicket. It was big time in MI's favor. And again, Pooran comes in, and at the point where he comes in, it feels like Seattle's ahead of the game, right? They have the big score on the board. Amado seems doing what he does all tournament long, taking wickets in the power play, and then plays one dot ball, finishes that over with 12 runs off of 2 sixes, and then Pretorius comes in the third and hits him for 22 runs. And then from there, you're like, man, Nicholas Pooran, it's just his night tonight, isn't it?
I think, like, more than the cricket, which is great, Pooran was fantastic, right? Great. I think the big thing that I'll take away from this tournament is the passion of this group of people that have come and watched cricket, not just here but in Morrisville as well. And I think when I came here, I've been at cricket in America before, and I've come and watched CPL games in Florida,
Sure.
and that was kind of a different crowd, right, from the one that we've seen here. That was kind of very much Guyanese and Trinidad expats,
Sure.
who were kind of quite experienced of kind of that CPL vibe and biggest pie in sport and all the rest of it, and there for the lime and all that stuff. But here, the thing that struck me almost as soon as I arrived is the genuine excitement from this cricket fan community here for these guys. And it did have that kind of like IPL insanity to people screaming people's names and asking them to come over for autographs, and you know, kind of like the look on someone's face. I remember there was one time I was at the Oval and I was walking up a set of stairs during it was an ICC event, and I was walking up a set of stairs, and hospitality and commentary were somewhere similar, and this guy walked past, and as he was walking past, Virender Sehwag came the other way, and this Indian cricket fan just kind of like stopped dead in his tracks and was like, and like there was a lot of that here, you know, like all of a sudden, not even playing, but Lasith Malinga walks past and everyone's like, Slinger Malinga, you know, it's like, I think it goes to show that there is a passion amongst existing cricket fans here in America for cricket, and I think it goes to show that it's a really strong base to come from. And for me, I think that will be the big takeaway for me, is that cricket in America and cricket fans in America should be very pleased. And I think what this week's shown, and what's been missing from American cricket for so long, is you've had cricket fans in America, but you've not had fans of American cricket.
Sure.
This was American cricket.
This is very important.
This was people cheering for a side with a Seattle or New York or whatever.
Yep.
And we can talk about IPL names being in it and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, there was a bigger cheer for the Texas team than any IPL names being in it and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, there was a bigger cheer for the Texas team than anywhere else here in Texas.
100%. And today was great because it showed that with Texas out of the tournament, you still had boisterous crowds. You had crowds that were very invested in Seattle, and Seattle's a brand new brand. It doesn't it's not a brand that's come over from India. Obviously, they have the DC Capital supporting them, but yeah, it was great to see all the fans, like you said, getting to see their favorite cricketers, the legends like Slinger Malinga, and the legends today like Rashid Khan. There was a lot of people, a lot of Afghanis here. It would be like kind of like you getting to meet like Troy Aikman, or like you know, one of those great cowboy greats, right?
I mean, I think maybe we need to reference that. So I have a baseball bat obsession.
Baseball cap obsession. You said bat.
I said cap.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard bat.
I mean, maybe I did. There's every chance. It is 20 past 1.
But it's cap. It's a baseball cap obsession.
Yeah. So, I was at a local supermarket today, and they had a Cowboys section, and I saw this and thought, I need to own it. I think it's the kind of thing that I need to wear on a golf course in Wales.
Well, it looks
so
wear it. Here, it's kind of like the American version of like a Burberry hat or something. You know what I mean?
But that's fine. I'm the kind of guy that would do that.
No, it's great. I like it. I like it. It made me laugh.
You will see that those of you who have seen me moving around the stadium over the last little while, I've had a different cap on literally every day.
Right.
I think. So, you know, it was Texas Rangers last time, Boston Red Sox the time before that. But anyway, we digress. Let's talk about cricket rather than just wearing on my head. I would have taken
this
it
is
off.
Part of the experience.
This is what big.
But yeah, no, I
about.
think you know, for me, the cricket here was as high a standard of cricket as you'd see everywhere. I think I don't really buy into the whole, is someone an American player or not an American player. There's guys here who have moved to America to play cricket in America in an American cricket league. When you're watching Major League Baseball, MLS, wherever, you know, there's good. I went to a Major League Baseball today, and at least a game while I was here, and 45-50% of both rosters are made up with guys from Latin and Central America.
Of course,
right?
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
You know, there's not necessarily. I don't really understand. Like, right. What's more important for American cricket? Is it having a product for cricket that people want to come and watch, or is it that kind of like almost the empire mindset of it being nation versus nation? Right. American sport is a completely brilliant way of showing you that you don't need international competition for sport to be brilliant, right? You can have the World Series with just American and one Canadian team playing in it, right? You can have it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you have sport that fans are invested in and want to watch.
That's true.
Is the answer for America to try and become an ODI nation and win the World Cup? Or is the answer to use the amazing sporting infrastructure that this has to build a league like this where it doesn't matter? And that would be the question that I would want to ask of American cricket fans. Would you rather watch USA playing against Bermuda in Morrisville, or would you rather watch this at Grand Prairie?
Well, I got a point to make about that. And here's the deal. We just saw this entire league the broadcast quality was tremendous.
Yeah.
It was very good. It was top notch. It was as good as anything you'll see in American sports.
Yeah.
Now, when USA play against Bermuda, doesn't matter where they're playing, but when they play against anybody, the broadcast quality is not very good, and that's because the ICC does not put a lot of money into that. So if you want to make cricket popular here, you have to present it well. American sports fans are not used to like a single fixed camera, you know, at one end, and a commentator who doesn't know the players.
So I think and I think there's a bit. I don't want to get into the point where you kind of bash the ICC, because I think the ICC actually do a fairly good job at trying to grow the game.
But that's what we do on this show. That's the point of our show. No, I'm just kidding.
So like I think
we are the ICC bashing pod.
No.
This is the point. This is the point I'm trying to make. Is that you need minor league cricket, right?
Absolutely.
And you need those streams and people having an interest in it, but that's never going to be mainstream, right?
Yep.
That's going to be the weirdos on this panel, and the, for want of a better word, the strange cricket people watching this wonderful show, right? That's who that's for, and it's great that it exists, right? But if you want to have, you need to, right? So this is how I see it at the moment. That's the problem, is that you have a strong but narrowly spread base at the bottom of American cricket.
Sure.
Yeah? Those who are involved and invested, and the ones that are in it for the right reason, are there doing their absolute best with this very thin both in terms of height and in terms of breadth.
Yes.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have minor league up here, and then major league.
Yeah.
This is the gap. Right?
Yeah.
So the gap is but the way you fill that gap is you kind of have to be Kevin Costner Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Right? Now, I hope that those who are involved in Major League Cricket, as someone who's passionate about cricket in America, and the reason why I said I wanted to come and do this is because I am passionate about cricket in America, right? And something I've been obsessed with and talked about for a decade and all the rest of it, right? And I like to think I've always been quite realistic in the way I've spoken about it, in that it's a 20-year project, not a 2-year project. Yeah. But I hope these guys who have done an amazing job with a small team to pull off this tournament, and the people who are paying their wages, hold the line.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Because there are tough times ahead.
There will be. There's no doubt. There's no doubt there will be. We have minor league launching next weekend. That's up until this year, the last couple of years, minor league has been our top thing. We had the traveling premium broadcasts last year, which you and I were fortunate enough to be able to be a part of. But those were fantastic. The production was terrific, and when you got everything lined up, you had the good players, the good broadcast, and then you had a ground like Morrisville where people actually came out and watched. It was really impressive. Yeah. And of course, this blows all that out of the water. But that doesn't that does not dilute the importance or the charm of minor league cricket, and we need minor league cricket badly. And so, and that's part of our role is to help bring people into minor league cricket. We believe that Major League Cricket will help bring people into minor league cricket as far as views, but most importantly, it's a development league.
So, I think some credit needs to be given for the foresight in appointing those ace players, right?
Sure.
Bringing those guys in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because what that did was that you had that narrow pool of players, and it was the same players playing against each other, but what that did was just give it some new blood.
Yeah.
Now, the people that I've spoken to about it have also said that the vast majority of those ace players that have been here for 2 or 3 years have also done a really good job in terms of community outreach, in terms of
they want it to work.
They want it to work.
Yeah.
They've obviously made an investment both in terms of their time, but also in terms of their families.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, 100%.
They're here.
Yeah.
They've made the decision. Like I was speaking with Kami LaRue, right? Kami LaRue's packed up his wife and moved to San Francisco.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
And that is an incredible commitment. So obviously he's committed to making it work, right?
Yes.
And the thing that I've been impressed with those guys is that they are great ambassadors for the game. Now,
absolutely.
I don't want people thinking that I think that everything's absolutely rosy and perfect, right? This is first year. There's lots of lessons for people to learn.
Sure.
But I think credit needs to be given where credit is due.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know how hard these tournaments are to pull off, and it's keeping that momentum going and holding firm for the next 11 months when someone sits there and goes, right, okay, let's then open up that spreadsheet and have a look at where the balance is for all of this, right? Because right now, for a league at this stage, there's going to be a whole lot more red than there is black on that spread, right?
Absolutely.
There's going to be a lot of, because these tournaments, even if you exclude, I always say to people, if you exclude players' wages, take that out of it, right? That's obviously a big commitment. But somewhere like this, you start thinking, right, okay, the people involved in making this work might be the players, plus another maybe 80 people travelling around, give or take.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
that becomes 3, and the passion is there. You hear VJ talking, and he'll talk about how this is something that they've wanted to happen for a long time, and I think the motivations behind it, I think, are the right motivations. I think the motivation is ultimately to make this a success. I really like. It's difficult. Obviously, I work really closely with I work for the CPL the majority of the year, so I kind of have a bias towards this kind of setup of giving a commercial organisation the rights of running T20 in your country, and how that can be a success, because it kind of takes a lot of the politics out of it.
Yeah.
And you have a small team that as a result is nimble and flexible and can make stuff happen. Say for example in Morrisville, where the decision was made to move the games forward by half an hour. You imagine if the process of having to do that, if you had a bigger team with more stakeholders and everything else, would have been hard. It's a lot harder to do. And I think it's a credit to those involved that they were happy to go, do you know what, we got the start time wrong. Let's move it.
And to your point, one of the benefits, definitely to your point, one of the benefits of having a not being led by a national governing body when it comes to a league like this is the continuity especially in the USA, when our board is changing members all the time. Our board is flipping over. It's turning over like crazy. So you have this continuity now of a professional league that's going to be here hopefully forever. And that's huge. That's massive, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time there's an election.
I mean, it's a hugely long road for this stuff to happen, right? I mean, like I keep, every time I think about this and every time I look at it, I think about MLS, Major League Soccer, right?
Yeah.
Is that Major League Soccer had some more advantages that every kid in America was playing soccer, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of turning it from being a kids game that you send a summer scamp to actually being a game that grown-ups want to play and that they want to invest to watch, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But it started from that small base of an expat community from Southern and Central America, right?
Sure.
That's basically how MLS started. But remember, MLS went bust.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the startup costs for this and the leading costs are so expensive because America is expensive, right?
It's true.
You have a security guard.
Right.
I always think like you have to look at this at the micro level rather than the macro level when you're talking about putting this on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're employing 150, 200 staff to come here on an hourly rate for this,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start saying, right, okay, so what would the wages be for that if you were doing it in Mumbai? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would the wages
way
be
less.
for that if you were doing it in Dallas?
100%. Yeah.
There's probably, these guys are probably on what, 20, 25 bucks an hour. Yeah, across 200. And again, just do the maths.
Yeah, do the math. Yeah, do the math.
Definitely
you're right.
with an S at the end, just to be clear. You just need to look at the maths of it and start saying, right, okay, so there's 200 of them. We've got to employ them for 7 hours. 7 hours times 200 times 20 bucks every game.
Yeah.
And
a big
it's
deal.
great that another thing I think that's been smart is having this at smaller grounds, right? So I always think the false dawns of American cricket are myriad. But one of the ones that I thought was probably the most egregious and the one that annoyed me the most at the time was the Veterans League that they started up at baseball stadiums. What, nearly 10 years ago
Was
now?
that
Do you remember
the All-Star thing?
All-Star thing?
Yeah.
And like that for me, when you were there going, the thing that upset me about that at the time was they were trying to say, oh, we're here to sell cricket to Americans. And I'm there going, so you're going to sell cricket to Americans, the mecca of sport business, by having a 46-year-old Curtly Ambrose running into bowl at 70 miles an hour.
Not gonna work.
That's not going to work, right?
Right, yeah.
The, for existing cricket fans in America, having Warren, Tendulkar, all of these guys turning up,
that's all
wow,
it was for.
that's amazing.
That's what it was for.
But say that's what it's for.
That's right. I agree with you.
It would have been very easy for Major League Cricket to be that.
Yeah.
To be there going, right, okay, we're going to try and find as big a venue as we can as possible in Los Angeles or New York or somewhere on the East Coast, Philadelphia, and we're going to say, right, there's a wealthy and invested Asian diaspora population, and we're going to take their money from them.
Yeah.
That isn't what this league's done, right? And again, long way to go, lots of learnings to have, and I think, but at the end of the day, they pulled it off. And that is, and the players are happy. I haven't really heard a player whinging and moaning at me, and I'm, fortunate enough that I know, well, fortunate or unfortunate, to know quite a few cricketers who, given the opportunity to me in the role that I'm in other places, would very happily have a whinge and a moan at me. I'm definitely a good sounding board for that. And I think the outside perception of it, that it's been a success. The question now is whether or not it gets that international breakthrough.
Sure.
Now, watching it tonight and seeing Nita and Barney there celebrating with their team, and seeing Sid. Sorry, I'm distracted.
Come on, you're good.
Well,
we're coming out in just a minute.
Sorry, that's someone arriving with my rucksack full of
That's all right.
my shizzle. So I think, Pooran doing what he did, being a big name, etc., etc., that can only be good news, right?
Sure.
And having that Indian cut through, right? This is what people need to realise, right? It's that cricket is India and India is cricket, right? And there's too many people that don't want to accept that reality. And we need to embrace it and enjoy the fact that there is 1 billion people in a growing population in a country that has a hugely growing economy that are interested in our sport.
Right.
Right? That is a good thing, right?
Sure.
There's cricket administration, as we have talked about when we haven't had microphones on, is an absolute...
We don't like any of them.
I've got to be careful. I kind of feel like nowadays I might actually be a cricket administrator. That really worries me. That really genuinely terrifies me.
We'll start our own thing called the Cricket Board, and we'll just wrangle away power. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
We did this stupid social media thing while we were here, and we were asking the guys, the cricketers, would you rather questions. And one of the questions we were asking them was. There is a point to this, I'll be clear. We were asking them, would you like universal respect or universal power? And most of them were like, universal respect. And I'm like, I wouldn't care if all of you hated me if I got my own way all the time.
I mean... Yeah, I see where you're coming from there, but you made a lot of really good points about the challenges that lay ahead. There are a lot of challenges that lay ahead, and one of them I want to point out here that gets hounded on a lot. We did do this in 2 leagues. In 2 sites. We did it here in Grand Prairie, and we did it at Morrisville. Which Morrisville, you set it up, people will show up. That's what Morrisville has a reputation for. Dallas, or Grand Prairie, I should say, people came out. They did come out, and to me, that was one of the measures of success. Now, one of the challenges here, one of the ways this is different than the GT20, which is always just at one place, is that there are plans in place to build venues at each one of these cities. Now, I want to temper expectations a little bit here. We're talking about some of the challenges. A huge challenge is going to be you can't have a cricket league in the USA without having a franchise from New York, or called New York. We know that. I mean, New York's the greatest city in the USA, so we're the biggest. But
are either of those things true?
Well, they're the most populous city in the USA.
Right.
The most populated city. They have.
What was Frank Sinatra singing about? Right.
Well,
that's
they have
the
a police budget the size of Mexico's entire military budget. So, but anyways.
Again, you're not selling the city.
There you go. But yeah. So the point I'm trying to get towards here is that it's going to be a long time before there's a cricket venue in New York. It's going to be even in a place close to New York City. It's going to be a long time. It takes a long time to build these types of venues in the USA. That's the most expensive place to try to do that. There's not a lot of land, and you have Madison Square Garden, which just renovated. Instead of rebuilding, instead of finding a new spot, because that's a great location, they renovated, and it cost them like over $1 billion to renovate Madison Square Garden. So that just goes to show you how difficult it is to find good property in New York to make a cricket ground. So I want to temper that kind of expectation and say that that's going to be a huge challenge for the league.
Yeah.
So for me, the takeaway from all of this has been mostly about infrastructure, right? And I think infrastructure is how cricket happens, yeah? So I think here in Dallas, I honestly can't sing the praises of this facility enough. I think it's genuinely a world-class cricket facility. This is as good as any county ground that you would go to. It's better than a lot of cricket grounds I've been to in much more established cricket-playing countries, right? Fantastic. And I don't think it's finished, right? So there's more to come.
Sure,
yeah.
and it's expandable.
Yeah. So that's great, yeah? I think it's a worry that there isn't the proper practice facilities that you need here in Dallas, and that's something that needs to be worked on. There isn't turf practice pitches. You can't be using the middle out here with the number of games that we've got, etc.
Yeah.
Which is why we had to be in Houston at the start, right?
Yep.
Because then you can be at Moosa or at Prairie View.
Yep.
Right? There's the Lord's Indoor Cricket Facility down the road, which you have to commend the guys on that facility. I don't know if you guys have been there and seen it.
I haven't been there yet, but it's famous. It's well known in the USA cricket circles.
As good as any indoor school you would see. Absolutely fantastic. The guys there seeing the Texas Super Kings and the San Francisco Unicorns walk into their facility, and I was thinking, do you know what? You deserve this so much. You decided to build an indoor cricket school in Plano, Texas. Right? You 100% deserve.
Yeah.
Faf du Plessis walking through the door.
100%.
And the excitement from those guys was brilliant. It was so good to see. Here's Shane Watson coaching the Unicorns walking through the door.
Incredible.
Right? So, but I have views on Morrisville, and I'm a little bit worried about saying it next to two North Carolina boys.
we do the Morrisville commentary, man. It's like you ought to feel this way.
So Morrisville is beautiful. I love North Carolina. I used to go a lot of the time there as a kid, genuinely. Climate-wise, oh my goodness, it's nicer than here. I mean, it's not even close, right?
Yeah.
But I think Major League needs to look beyond Morrisville.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Morrisville...
Well, they are. They are.
Yeah. But I think Morrisville, for what it's done, has served the community well. And the cricket community there, I think... If you were to look at it from a deserving point of view, those people that have supported minor league cricket have deserved Major League Cricket games at Morrisville.
Absolutely.
But, unfortunately, infrastructure-wise, outfield-wise, probably pitch-wise, definitely lights-wise, it's not really good enough for this level of cricket and this level of cricketers.
Well, first of all, the pitch is usually a lot better, but I agree with the other points. Yeah, I agree with the other points.
So, I think... And the problem is, with it being a public park, there isn't the opportunity for some angel investor to come in and say, right, okay, I'll spend $25 million on making it into a
there's
great
a ceiling for Morrisville Church Street Park.
So,
we know that.
So, and I kind of get why they went, having not had games here before, but I'd be surprised if Major League Cricket was back
Yeah,
there
no,
again. And if it was me doing it, if like this is, so maybe I'm too pragmatic when it comes about this cricket ops ideas stuff. But I'd kind of just be there going, this is great. Play all 19 games here. Yeah.
That's a trick though. Selling because what T20 league does a home team have to sell 19 games at their home?
No,
that's
right.
a hard thing.
So 100%. 100%, and I agree with you that the plan needs to be moving beyond that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But being able to come back and do it again is great. But the other thing I would say, and this is something that I think the league needs to be really aware of, is that Major League Cricket made quite a big splash when it happened because it's the first time it happened, right? Mm-hmm. But then you become a victim of your own success. People aren't as excited about Major League Cricket happening again when it's the second year, third year, fourth year,
set it up
fifth
every
year.
single year.
So what do the league need to do to be able to create that buzz and have people coming back? You know, and what we've seen in the past, we saw it with CPL. You know that there's great excitement the first year, excitement the second year. By the third year, it's they're going right. Okay, you guys have done this before. You know, So I think it's very important that people don't get carried away, and I don't think they will. It would be great if there was another venue kicking around by this time next year. I think having a venue of this quality at some point in the next 12 months before they try and do this again is probably a pipe dream, because this place has taken, what, 3 years?
Probably about 2 years. About 2 years,
So, you know, and it's not just, you know, it's having... And I think it's great that this has basically been started, in essence, from the ground up as a cricket venue, which is absolutely fantastic. But I think that infrastructure problem is the biggest problem for this league going
absolutely.
forward. That is where it ends and begins, because infrastructure isn't a case of, you know, it's not just... To have 6 stadiums is probably a $500 million problem. Right?
Yeah, it's expensive.
So, and then you've got the upkeep of it and all the rest of it. So, you know, I think there are way more positives than negatives. This league's massively exceeded my expectations of what I thought would happen. I've said to all of the MLC guys who I've spoken to that I think they've done an amazing job, you know, and they should all be really proud, and they deserve to have a lot of sleep and a lot of whatever it is that makes them feel happy afterwards, whether that's a nice slice of cake or a nice glass of wine, whatever rocks your boat.
A seltzer on the square.
Whatever it takes. But you know, I think it's great. Anyway, I've spoken a lot on your show.
No,
that's right.
We
want to hear
your reason
you're
here.
That's why you're here. Yeah.
You've seen this all around the world, but I think a lot of what you said is true. There's a long way to go for this league. There's a lot of things that need to be done. But I think, to me, the moment of the day was watching the drone show, sitting up by the PA booth. Justin Gill, the commissioner of the league, he's right behind me and Z, and I'm looking over at him during the drone show and it's saying Major League Cricket, and there's like a little tear in his eye. And I'm like, you know what? You deserve all of this. The whole staff deserve all of this, because for all the hiccups that happened during the year, this year still worked out. It was still a pretty damn good season. It was still a pretty damn good league.
That was emotional.
And I mean, it was awesome to see that drone show. It was awesome to see this league perform. Kind of bittersweet that we're at the end of it, but man, what a 3 weeks it's been. Lost some sleep. Now we get to catch up a little bit before minor league, before CPL for you. We appreciate you guys for losing sleep watching us talk about all this post-game stuff. We're going to miss doing these post-game shows, but we thank you so much for joining us. For myself, for Nate Hayes, for Peter Miller today, and for Bob Urbeg, obviously running all the production. We thank you for joining us on another Big Innings.